Happy Thursday. I have Neuro Coffee in hand, and it is perfect as usual. This is the Coffee and Coaches Conference call. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday.
I had a friend text me just the other day, kind of asking a question about something she's seen with one of her clients, and I was kind of intrigued by it as well. She's talking about an individual that she has that is extremely wide ISA and appears to be stuck in posterior tilt, or it's like this is her what she's seeing so far. She's unsure if she's actually seeing posterior tilt or just so compressed on the backside that the hips are being pushed forward and still stuck in like neutral or even anterior tilt, but getting motion other places. So she's trying to figure out how to assess to get back to figure out where he really is, I guess.
Well, I mean, step one is kind of figure out where you are, right?
Right.
Well, I should just make Austin talk about this. When we talked about this yesterday, because he had the same scenario, I believe. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in most cases, it'll be very difficult for somebody who is legitimately a wide infrasternal angle. So the very horizontal helical angles. It's very difficult to create what you would consider any kind of posterior orientation of the pelvis. The amount of bending that would be required would be very, very difficult. But a lot of times you'll see these wide people and they will just be flat as a pancake across the backside, especially in the pelvis, right? And so it's not the sway that you would typically see with the narrows, because the orientation of the sacrum doesn't allow it, right? So I would have a nutated sacrum, and so to have what would look like the traditional sway back, where you have the pelvis is swayed underneath, and they're almost standing in hip extension. You have to have a counter-nutated sacrum to acquire that kind of appearance. And so in most cases, they're pushed, like what I describe is they're just pushed straight through between the two femurs. And so it becomes this really aggressive kind of an external rotation. So, because if I'm, hang on, gotta get my pelvis in the right position, there we go. So if I'm starting wide like that, and then I compress that, and this is, you see how the sacrum moves as a unit here, Matt? Yeah. Under these hard compressive circumstances with the wide, it does not orient as such. It literally just bends. Okay, so from here down, the sacrum bends underneath, and I have MRIs and functional MRIs that actually show this. And it's pretty hardcore. Like you get like a 90-degree angle, bent through the sacrum. So again, there's a lot of compression here. And so where we would have a narrow that would be counter-nutated, and they look like they kind of just sway under like so, these wide people kind of push straight through like that.
Right.
Okay. And so it's like, how does a wide person get so externally rotated? And this is how they just get so compressed posteriorly. They get pushed forward. And then what happens is you get this ER orientation all the way down to the ground. And so these are the people that they're on the outside edge of their foot. They'll have an inverted calcaneus. They'll have an inverted look to their calcaneus. They may be bowed, and so all you got to do is look at a really, really good power lifter with a really, really strong sumo deadlift, and you'll see kind of the same orientation.
Yeah, she mentioned that he was pretty duck-footed, like feet down out, and then so I asked her that, and then I was saying, hey, what does his toe touch look like, to kind of make sure that if he's actually posterior tilted or if he's in the position that you were saying. And I didn't get back from her, but
Right, and because of all the concentric activity that you've got on the back side, it's like these are the people that they won't even approach 90 degrees of hip flexion. They'll be very, very limited. You know, you'll try to move them through like a traditional measurement of hip flexion, and somewhere around 60, 70 degrees, the knee's going to deviate laterally because there's so much compression on the backside of the pelvis. And they'll be the same orientation in the thorax. Sideline is very useful because somebody that's this compressed, I mean, they go from, you know, that shape to that shape. And so you need some form of lateral compression, and there's no muscles that do that. So that's a nice, easy way to initiate some of the AP. You just use gravity to your advantage to help you spread out front to back.
So as you compress that backside and synovial fluid starts to fill the front portion of the joint capsule, as that gradient gets harder and harder, or bigger and bigger, does it get harder and harder to then pull back all the synovial fluid?
Okay, so this is a really good question. The thing you want to try to recognize here, though, is that if I have this posterior lower compression, I already have a scenario where I've got the anterior compression already in play. And so now what happens, so think about pushing the femur straight into the acetabulum and getting this uniform distribution of synovial fluid around the joint. And what that means is it becomes very, very stable, right? So I'm driving it straight into the acetabulum. So it's not a matter of shifting synovial fluid anterior or posterior. It's all the way around the joint. And so under those circumstances, it doesn't move. Like,
right.
So I don't have ER or IR, right?
Yeah.
Because if I had a gradient, I would have motion in one direction or the other, right? There is no gradient anymore. That's what happens under these circumstances. They get so compressed, and the acetabulum, because of the compressive strategy that's anterior and posterior, the acetabulum starts to face a little bit more sideways, and literally you just drive the femur, drive it straight into the hip socket, right? So I don't have any of this. I just have straight in, like I'm just squeezing it into the socket, right?
You're saying usually that person that's super posteriorly compressed is also compressed anteriorly.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the reason for that? I'm thinking like if you're pushing somebody so far anteriorly, you kind of need a new muscular strategy to be able to like keep the femur from going so far anteriorly. Is that where so it's like almost like a co-contraction type strategy?
Okay, so if you want to call that co-contraction, I'm totally cool with that, because you got stuff going on anteriorly and posteriorly. You're more likely to get the posterior compression to be towards the base of the sacrum, which pushes you forward. And so I don't fall on my face, I got to push back with the front side. And then my last strategy is to bend the sacrum down and underneath to kind of squeeze everything together. And now I don't go forward or back. I'm just stuck in the middle. And so you got your waddlers, your people that waddle when they walk, you know. It's like those people are and they look wide too. I mean, they got the wide pelvises, they'll have a wide thorax, et cetera, et cetera. And so the reason that they waddle is because they no longer have any turn.